Three, two, one. Welcome to Abundance, a podcast program about the abundance mindset. My name is Zhou Fang. I am your host. Together, we will explore the abundance mindset and practice together. Welcome aboard. Hi there. Welcome back to the World of Abundance, a podcast program about the abundance mindset and how to practice it. And I am your host and teacher, Zhou Fang. In the last episode, we talked about love, not only the romantic love, but also familial love, friendship, communal love, and the big love. So if you had any thoughts, please feel free to share with us. And today I want to talk about perhaps the partner or the friend of love, which is grief. We talk about, how grief shows up differently for everyone. And grief is a form of love, actually, because if we don't love, we wouldn't grieve. Like in the last episodes, we talked about, if you didn't love, you wouldn't have a heartbreak because you loved. And then when something happens, you feel hurt or you feel like, oh, my heart is broken. So grief is kind of similar. If we had loved deeply, be it our family members or life partners, or even just something that's important in our life, when something ended, we grieve is because we care deeply and we loved. And this goes beyond of life or death, of course, because in today's world, so many things are happening and they're not always nice. Say when a natural disaster happens, we see the loss of life, we see the loss of property, and we see animals suffer. And we also grieve for that. And when war happens in the world, we also grieve for that. And when we see when some people's, say, rights are being taken away, we also grieve for that because that is a community loss. We can feel the collective grief when something that's kind of like violating our human rights happens. I also want to mention, during COVID, we lost so much collectively. Some may say our freedom, or some may say our sense of normality, right? What was normal was being taken away. And also just the simple scale of COVID is a huge kind of a reason for us to grieve because it was global and so much loss we endured during those years. And there are so many kind of memories we just couldn't get back because of it. And we also grieve for that as well. So there are many forms of grief, and we're talking about the grief that goes beyond life and death. But of course, the most familiar form of grief is to grieve a loss of life when someone passed away, someone who is important to us or dear to us. When that happens, we grieve. I think in the Western culture or in modern society, grief isn't mentioned or encouraged or sometimes appreciated compared to some other cultures, right? Sometimes people say, oh, you move on. The thing is, we don't really move on from grief. We move forward with grief. We carry the grief with us, and the grief will take different shapes and forms as we move through this life. So being able to talk about grief and process grief is actually strangely, is actually a way for us to exercise love and access love. So in a lot of cultures around the world, right? Like for example, in Mexico, we have a Day of the Dead or Días de los Muertos. And in China, we have Qingmingjie, which is a tomb sweeping festivals. And also we know in Japan, we have Obon. That's also a festival for people to honor their ancestors, people who passed away. So in different cultures, we have many customs or traditions to celebrate lives and to honor people who kind of came before us. And I'm sure there are other examples too. So if you know some other ways for folks around the world to celebrate ancestors or loved ones, please feel free to share in the comments. I would love to learn about them as well. So that is to say, grief is not taboo in many cultures. It's something for us to think about, to practice. And as we move through this life, grief is such a big lesson for us as human beings because it is a form of love. And at the end of the day, all we want is love. And everyone wants to be remembered by loved ones, that they mattered and they existed in this world. So I think grieving is also a way to honor people who left us early or before us. So I do want to share kind of like my own experience with grief, and this happened very recently actually, and this person is not a part of my biological family, although, in Chinese culture, we call a lot of people aunties and uncles, even though we're not really related. So this person particularly, I called her Auntie Trina, and though we were not related by any way, although she did remind me of my grandmother in a way, funny enough. So Auntie Trina passed away recently, and kind of like unexpectedly, she had an accident, and from that accident, she passed away a few days later. And I didn't know about it until kind of a week or so after her passing. And I'm still processing, of course, and we know grief comes in different ways. So I'm hoping, by talking about her here is my way of maybe remembering her a little bit, and also to honor her. And one thing that I want to share about Auntie Trina is she was a really good origami maker. So over the years, every like Lunar New Year, she would make me a Chinese zodiac animal of the year, right? We have 12. So every year she would make me an animal of the year, like from the lunar calendar. So what I have here, like the first year she started making that for me is like a little bunny. I think that was Year of Rabbit. So after that was a dragon. Let me find the dragon. The dragon is this one, I think. Although it also looks like the snake she made for me too. So this is the following year. She made the snake for me. She also made one for my boyfriend. So she made two for us. And then this year, for the Year of Horse, the fire horse, she made this little horse for me, the origami. So yeah, so she was a very skilled origami maker, and she also made this, like handmade this card for me in previous years as well. So I just really appreciated that, her thoughtfulness and her kindness to me. She was also a immigrant in the United States. So immigrant to immigrant, even though decades apart, we really shared a lot of kind of values and interests together for our immigrant community. And even in her 70s, right, she was still volunteering. She was still volunteering in the immigrant community. And for me, that was just like really good role model, and I learned a lot from her about showing up, about loving your people, and about speaking your piece as well. She was never like, oh, I'm gonna hold, I'm gonna kind of keep quiet, or I'm gonna shut up. No, she always spoke her mind to her peers and to her community members and to her friends as well. She was never shy away from sharing her thoughts or her opinion, and she was very candid with care. And she always cared about me, my dog, and my family. We would just talk about the things we do in our lives, and we would share lunch together over the years. And for me, that memory is just so precious, and it showed that how much she loved just a fellow immigrant who really didn't relate to her at all. And for me, she was an elder who took care of the younger generation in her own ways. And I was so proud, and I am very proud to call her my friend, even though I called her Auntie Trina. So that was a little kind of a tribute to my friend who recently passed away. And I feel grief, right? When we say we grieve someone, it really doesn't have to be sad. I mean, sad is part of it. Of course, we feel sad when someone leaves us or leave this world and move on to the next chapter. But, you know, in addition to that, that sadness, that sorrow, that kind of like, oh, that's too bad, or that's too soon, or that's very unfortunate, I think there's also this appreciation of life, right? The cherish of someone's memory, someone you respect, someone you look up to, someone you consider as a peer, as a friend, as maybe a role model even. So grief really takes many shapes and forms. And when we think about grief, it really doesn't have to be only sadness. And in this culture, being sad is not always encouraged or sometimes allowed even, right? Sometimes we will say, oh, you just snap out of it, or just like pull it together. People will say that. I mean, yes, sometimes we need to do that. Also, you know, we need space. We need our own timeline when it comes to grief. So I hope that resonates and hope that helps as well. And to folks who are out there, perhaps going through your own grief and your own kind of memories, I hope that gives you a little comfort and maybe a little bit encouragement to grieve in your own way, because it is a beautiful thing. And again, grief is love. And only when we love, we grieve. So those two going hand in hand. So I hope that helps. And so that's it for this episode. And if you enjoyed it, please like it. Please share with your friends and family. Please leave your comments and thoughts and reflection on grief. We would like to see it. And please subscribe. Please turn on the notifications as well so that you don't miss the content. And also, you know, all the informations about the show is in the show notes. And we would really appreciate if you can support our show as well. So yeah, with that, we hope to see you again soon. Until then, take care and thank you.